So, when you left Annapolis, you came home and then the war started, so what did you do during the war?
Well, I came home and got married. And then I went out to, I went to work for Boeing. And before the war, before Pearl Harbor, because Madeline and I were living in Seattle when Pearl Harbor occurred. And I worked out there, it was probably, well, I worked a year because even with the war on, they gave us a week's vacation. And went out there like July or something, a year, which would be the next July. I took the week off, and Mrs. Shannon, Madeline's mother, was out there, and her dad was up in Great Falls. They were building the East Base up there, and he had contracts on that. So she came out to see us, and we gave her a ride back to Great Falls on my week off. Well, I had worked for her dad before we were married when I was last couple of summers in high school and after that. When we got to Great Falls, help was a problem at that time, with the war starting on, and everybody was working. A lot of people went wherever they wanted to go to work. He was short-handed, so I get there, and one night he said, and I'd worked around the crusher before, he said, we haven't got an oiler on the crusher tonight, would you come out and work? Yeah, that's fine. So I went out, well, the oiler didn't show up the next night, the next night, the next night. So I'm working, they were working 12-hour shifts, good money. And we're living with the Shannons, we were staying at their house. Well, I told them, I gotta get back to Boeing Monday. I haven't got any oilers. Can't you postpone a little bit? Well, I'll postpone it a day or two. Well, I postponed it. We worked the East Base, then they got pretty well caught up on that, and the state had some work to do on the highways. There wasn't a big construction program going, but there was work to maintain the highways. So we got some of that, and I remember I was down working at between Billings and Hardin, a little place called Fly In. We were seal coating the road. And this was the next summer, about 100 in the shade down there, and we used to get our mail. The guy that delivered the oil from the refinery, the seal coat oil, used to bring the mail with him. And I got my greetings from that guy. So I opened the letter and report such and such in Great Falls, because we were living in Great Falls. So I just got back on the truck with the guy when he went back to the refinery, and I wasn't happy to be drafted, but I was just happy to get away from Fly In. It wasn't that ideal. So then I went in the service then. I was only in the service about 21 months, I think. But we had 2 children by that time, and never left the country. I was on a draft for Okinawa when Truman dropped the bomb. And immediately the Navy came out with a discharge policy. Any points, the points went. But anybody, by then we had 3 kids. Anybody with 3 children was automatically taken off any overseas draft, so I got out then. And it was kind of an unusual service experience. When I was drafted out of Great Falls, but I caught the draft. Everybody went down to Fort Logan, is that in Salt Lake at that time, down into Utah. got on the train here, went down there, got picked to go in the Navy. It wasn't, everybody was going in the Army, so they kept us, the ones going to San Diego, they kept us there for about a week waiting for a draft to go to San Diego. I get to San Diego and I was quite a bit, not quite a bit, but 3 or 4 or 5 years older than most of them who was going into these boot camps then. I think there was 10 of us from Montana and we were all in our 20s or something, but the rest of these kids, there was half were from California and half from Texas, motley crew all the way around. But they were all 18 and 19, younger kids, and so we had a little trouble educating them, but we did. But I was down there about a week, and I was told to report to this office, this doctor's office. Go on over there. This guy asked me goofy questions, dug into me, my mind a lot. And I'm going over there with this, there was a half a dozen of us, and some of these guys were flying and some of them were crawling, and the worms were getting them and all this, and I'm like, what the hell's this all about, So this goes on for about 4 sessions, and finally I said to this doctor, he was a captain or something, I said, what the hell's going on here? Well, you were supposed to mind your own business, say what. I said, I'm minding my own business. You're poking at me and asking me these things. I think I deserve an explanation. Well, he said, I'll tell you what the explanation is. He says, you were in the Naval Academy, and you left the academy, and 3 months after you left the academy, you got a letter from the Navy offering you a commission in the reserve, and you refused it. And we can't understand how you can exist as an enlisted man with that background and what went on. Well, I said, don't let it bother you. I said, I'm not mad at the Navy. I don't want to be a naval officer. I don't want to be a sailor, but I understand the circumstances, and I'm not going to be a rebellious type. Let's both understand that. Well, he said, I've kind of come to that conclusion. Well, I said, then I'm not going to be wandering around with these goofs then for the next 6 weeks. Is that right? He said, yeah. I said, but all it took was an explanation, Yeah. And then I ran into, when I was at Annapolis, I had 2 roommates from New Jersey. I ran into both of them in the service. They both, one of them survived, one didn't. When you're in the academy as a plebe, you have a first classman taking care of you. He's supposedly keeping care of you so you don't get into mischief. Well, my first classman was on the Arizona with Jim Layden when they sunk it at Pearl Harbor. He didn't survive. And that is why I didn't want to stay at Annapolis, but it just wasn't my type of life. I loved construction work and machinery, and of course it's like my mother said, well, get a college diploma and then go be a cat skinner. Well, it wasn't that much fun. I had a lot of good breaks that way. Some of them were kind of strange. When I was talking about working up in Great Falls, I never did. I drew my last check from Boeing the day after I got discharged from the Navy in Bremerton. I left everything